her. Good day, everybody. My name is Peggy Sala with the Medical Laboratory Sciences, and I want you to tell me, what do you see in this picture? First thing that comes to your mind.
A bowl? Is it a bowl?
It could be a bowl, yes. Anything else? Everybody sure?
오셔.
Okay, so it's a bowl. Now, imagine that you could fly all the way up to the ceiling and look at it from above. This is how your journey would be like. Your eye is the same, your knowledge is the same, the object is the same. The only thing that changed was the way you looked at it. It makes me think, for all the diseases we don't have a cure for, or the problems we don't seem to solve, what if we have the knowledge and facilities we need to solve them? The only problem is that you're not looking at it through the right direction. One of these problems and diseases is depression. More than 300 million people suffer from it worldwide, making it the most common mental disorder in the world. About 35% of them never receive any treatment. It's one of the leading causes for disability, especially in younger adults. And those who do receive treatment have a recurrence rate of at least 50%, meaning that they get treated, they feel better, but after a while, it's back. Antidepressants don't work in 10 to 30% of the patients, and at least 40% of them have experienced side effects from them. Today, we will try to understand depression better. But this time, instead of looking at the brain, like we always do, let's look somewhere else. A little lower to our gastrointestinal tract, and that's ourselves at the microbes who live inside. We have trillions of microbes living in our body, consisting of bacteria. They're mostly bacteria, fungi, yeast, viruses. All together, they get called the microbiome. They could be on our skin, they could be in our mouth, in our lungs, but the biggest and most diverse majority lives in our gut. Most of them are commensal, meaning that they won't harm or benefit us. Some of them are pathogenic, they can cause infection, and the rest are actually beneficial. The population of these three groups stays balanced in normal times. And that is important. They have some important roles, like they help with digestion, they help train our immune system to be able to distinguish the difference between what it should and what it should not react to, and they can produce some white. But what is actually interesting is that recently, researchers have found links between microbiome and depression. Well, that's crazy and interesting enough. But apart from that, it might help us to understand depression a little better, at least some of the patients dealing with depression. And maybe we will have novel treatments to help through this. We don't exactly know how this might happen, or whether it is a coincidence, or it actually is possible. But based on recent research on rodents and some clinical trials, scientists suggest three possible mechanisms for this. The first one is through vagus nerve. Vagus nerve connects our gut and our brain. Turns out that the gut microbiome can interact with endocrine cells in our gut, which can produce neuroactive molecules and peptides, which, through vagus nerve, can affect the brain. Another possible mechanism is about the things that they produce. They produce some metabolites, some neurotransmitters like serotonin, and some hormones. Well, you've heard of serotonin. It's extremely important for our brain function and our mood. It might interest you that about 90% of serotonin in our body is actually made by bacteria. But The serotonin used in the brain is produced in the brain. It doesn't travel from gut. However, some microbes in our gut can produce tryptophan, which is an amino acid serotonin is made of. It's the drum in that picture. So in a way, microbes could provide ingredients for the brain to produce neurotransmitters or some other way that we haven't figured out yet. I'm going to repeat that quite a lot. Another one is our immune system. Remember how I told you that the population stays in balance and it should stay that way? Well, sometimes, like due to antibiotic use or some other stressors, the balance changes into imbalance, called dysbiosis. Then, pathogenic strains increase, and our immune system, of course, reacts to that by producing cytokines. Cytokines are proteins that activate immune cells, and they help eventually eliminate the pathogenic agent. And it's great, but sometimes cytokines produce too much, and our own cells get affected, and that's when we have inflammation. Apart from the fact that inflammation can cause different problems in gut, including inflammatory bowel diseases, there is this idea that inflammation in the gut can transform into inflammation in the brain, and there is more and more evidence every day that depression is in fact very much related to inflammation in the brain. There's actually a positive side to this too. Some microbes have shown to have anti-inflammatory effects. So in a way, that suggested the idea for a new set of drugs called psychobiotics. You can find one of them in that picture. There are probiotics, which are live microorganisms you can find in fermented food or some supplements that you use in the hope that you will get a positive mental health benefit from them. In a study done by McMaster University in 2017, 44 patients with irritable bowel syndrome were chosen. As you know, they have some digestive problems, and it is said that around 30% of them have depression as well. So they chose 44 patients with irritable bowel syndrome who had depression symptoms as well, divided them into two groups. One group was placebo, and the other one received a probiotic called the Bifidobacterium lungum for 6 weeks. After that 6 weeks, it turns out that 14 out of that 22 who had received the probiotic experienced a reduction in symptoms of depression of 2 points or more in the hospital depression scale, while in the placebo group it was 7 people. And after 10 weeks, they still felt better, and their quality of life overall was improved. Well, it sounds too good to be true, which is may or may not be. One thing that almost every research I looked at agreed on was that we see significant connection, great potential, but there's still not enough evidence to say that microbiome and depression are actually related, or that the probiotics can be used in the treatment of it. And I was not very happy about this because it would make my talk sound unimportant. Obviously, I tried to look differently, and I figured my purpose isn't to just talk about a new set of drugs or to ask patients to have depression to leave therapy and instead start eating fermented food. Which, by the way, please don't do that. What I want is to inform and get as many people excited about this as I can, so that they would want to research this in the future. And with enough people willing to devote their scientific life to this, I think we might have something useful. And that's going to be huge. This looks like a wall. A wall we didn't think there was a way through it. But perhaps some psychologist somewhere decided to see it from another sciencey viewpoint. More people came along, they shared their views, connections were made, and with their viewpoint that wall might actually have a pool inside it. Looking at these ducks, I get reminded of the game I used to play as a kid. It was connecting the ducks. You would have to draw lines between the ducks and make houses out of them. The one who managed to get more houses would win. At the beginning, it was pretty boring and put it further before. But after the game progresses, if you manage to see something your opponent misses, you can win. I think in the world that we live in right now, all the easy spots are already taken. We need to look different. We need to see potential when others fail. I'd like to end my talk with a beautiful quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer, saying that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Thank you, USERN, for this great opportunity. I've had the best time of my life. I hope this will have potential in the future, and thank you for your time.